April 11th, 2020, my husband passed away. And that was the first time that I learned that I would be truly alone. My kids, when we got married, my family and God was my life, and then the kids grew up. They were my life. I revolved my world around them. They grew up. I focused a lot on my husband. And then the grandkids came, and they were my life, and I focused my world around them. And they are grown up and have, a little time for me. And I realize everyone is just busy and they have their own life. But that was the first time, 2020, that I really felt alone. I felt like this before when my mom passed away. And I had 3 kids to raise on my own because their father, I couldn't be with their father. It was just too difficult. And she was my moral support, my love, my life, my mental stability. And I thought I was going to die then. And now I found myself in the same position. But yet, I didn't know what I had to live for. It was time to do things for myself, and I just didn't know how to do it. Between moving, it's kind of difficult. I wanted to cry, but I couldn't. I mean, COVID was a terrible thing. We didn't know how bad it was, and if you got it, would you die? Everybody was really scared of it. They closed all the buildings in 2020. They closed Goodwill. And I'm sitting there thinking, I have to move a 2-story home into a small trailer, which I was looking at, or a condo, whatever I can afford to live. But I wanted to have something for myself, like a piece of land or something that I can rebuild. Not only have I lost my sister 6 months before, then I lost my husband, and then my home. And I didn't really have time to focus. The only time I had to think about what was happening in my life was when I went to Hood Park, when Melody was showing my house and trying to help me to sell it. God bless her soul. She's a wonderful woman, and she helped me a lot. But while she was doing this, I thought a lot, and when I was watching the birds, and I just didn't know what I was going to do. That every single piece of my life was just broken. They were like puzzle pieces flying around in my head. A piece over there, a piece over there. All the pieces were scattered. It was like, how the milkweed pods open? That's how it seemed to go. Just blowing around all my puzzle pieces in my head. And then I just didn't know what it would look like. What would my puzzle look like? What would the picture be when I was finished? I was really scared. After sitting and contemplating at home, sitting at the lake with my dogs, I knew one of them wouldn't live long. Bard had cancer. And a lot of places I looked wouldn't even take dogs. And I'm saying, okay, I lost my sister, I lost my husband, I lost my home, I lost my garden, and now I'm going to lose my dogs. I was very, very upset. A lot of places around in Derry wouldn't let me have the animals. A lot of places in Derry were too expensive for me to afford. So I walked down. I knew that she'd left the house and I'd have the house for a few minutes. I come home from the park and look around at my home, realizing it's all going to be gone someday. And I thought about all the memories that was there, when I went and opened the door and went in the living room, and I could see my grandchildren roller skating around. I could see my children running and playing, going up and down the stairs. It's just like everything was going on that time. And I watched like all the past go flood through my mind. And all those memories we had. And then I went in the kitchen and I remember Bob cooking, looking through the refrigerator. I remembered him coming through that door, smiling at me with his dimples. I never see them again. And then I went in the dining room and thought about all the Christmases and Thanksgivings we had there. The times that we invited the homeless that didn't have a place to go for Thanksgiving. I saw everything there happening. Us praying around the table. And it was so beautiful. And all these memories I had were there. And I thought at least I had them in my head. But I would have to leave. I knew that this house was too big for me. Because I'd be pretty lonely. Because there was no noise. There was no more running feet around. My grandkids have gotten grown up. I did have one on the way. So I walked back into the living room and I saw all my knickknacks, all the things that I've collected through the years. I always collected things, a lot of things, because when I lived in the projects, I got robbed all the time. I never was able to have nothing. They stole everything, even my microwave, my TVs, my pillows, my blankets, my food. It seemed like I had nothing to myself. And my children had nothing. No matter how many times I went shopping, it'd still be gone. I mean, one time they robbed and stole everything. And we didn't even have so I went in because I just went shopping because it was Easter. And I opened the refrigerator and they took everything but the ham, the Easter ham, but they took the key. So I couldn't open it. These people in the project just were, horrible. So when I moved and finally had a home, I'd see something that I used to have and I'd pick it up, and to me it was a part of my past coming back to me. I saw things that I had when I was a child that was taken away from me, and I'd pick it up and keep it. I mean, every single collection, people didn't understand why I was collecting them. There was a reason behind this. I collected dolls because all my dolls I had to throw away when I was 16, and I used to collect them since I was a baby, and I wasn't allowed to have them anymore. And then, not by my parents, but by somebody else, then I was robbed of everything. And every time I saw an image of something that reminded me of something that was taken away from me in the past, I'd grab it and I have it so I can have my past again, something to live about it. So that's why I collected all these little knickknacks around my home. And then all of a sudden I just looked and I'm like, This is nothing. They are meaningless. What is more important is God and your family. It's not every single knick-knack in your house. The memories are good and you keep. It's not your home. It's not your garden. It doesn't belong to me. It was only lent to me by God. So, it is nothing. To lose all these things that are impersonal. And I thought about that. They are meaningless. All of a sudden, they meant nothing to me anymore. Every little piece that I took from the world, or whatever you want to call it, everything that meant so much to me meant nothing. My past meant nothing. All as I wanted was my husband to come back and be with me through all this. I did not want to do this all alone. And how would I get rid of all this stuff? So I packed and I packed. I couldn't have anybody over there to help me. I was nervous to have them there. So I packed everything myself. Everything I did, I packed myself. My sons came over to help me a lot with getting rid of stuff, destroying stuff, getting them in the garbage. And I couldn't go to Goodwill because everything was closed. I looked at my furniture. I looked at my entertainment set that I was so proud of, that I got for $3 at Goodwill, that was made out of hardwood. It was beautiful, with the doors on the side, and you can put the TV in and close it. I always wanted one of them, but never could afford it. But when I saw it for $3, I could afford it. And I get my sons to haul it way over my house, and it was heavy. I looked at my other cabinets with all my games. I say games, tons of games for the kids. I had so much supplies of arts and crafts. With those little drawers, I have tons to make fairy gardens and flowers and all kinds of stuff that I used to make when I go to McDonald's with the kids. All kinds of arts and crafts. And they were all over the house, but what was I going to do with everything? Which I bundled most of my arts and crafts and gave them away. But the big things that I couldn't get rid of, I watched them being chopped up and thrown in the dump. And that's where my life was ending up, in the dump. My things that I had. I tell myself there's no meaning, but and deep in your heart, they mean something to you. And you're going to miss them. And it hurts to see your house being torn apart and thrown away. And your garden, it's going to be gone. I had beautiful trellis out there with wisteria growing. I had rose bushes and cornflowers and butterfly bushes and all kinds. And I started to grab everything I could and put them in suitcases as soon as the spring got a little warmer. And I put them all in suitcases. And I separated the flowers because I didn't want to take them all. I left most of the cornflower garden. I left the blueberry bushes, all 3 of them that my son had bought. I left my daughter's trellis and the wisteria's vines and all the grapevines that trellised all around the fence, the metal fence that we put in. I looked at the backyard where my grandkids used to dig, and I used to tell them, there's gold there, there's gold there. And we found bottles and glass and even a toilet. We found pants and all kinds of stuff back there. My grandkids and I toiled and did a lot. I looked back there and looked at the patio we built. I built. When my son helped me, we had fire pit and we just cook over it and talk and have fun. That would be gone. But at least I was able to save some flowers. And I put them in the flowers. I had all kinds of vases, and not vases, I had pots, and I took pieces. And all through April, through June, when I moved, well, the end of July, they grew bigger and bigger in the pots. And they were ready to plant wherever I was going to go, because I had no idea where I was going. When I saw this place in Raymond, I knew it was kind of far from my kids, and I was not happy about that. There was a few places I looked, in Derry and in Salem, but they were for elderly places. But when I saw the home in Raymond, and I saw the land, and it was barren, with nothing on it, it called for a new start. And I thought to myself, I am going to give life to this land, and I'm going to bring color to it, and I'll make it mine, and make it my family's, because every flower means something to me and someone. It's a reminder of people that I loved, that have passed, or my friends that I still have, because to me, people are like flowers. And it's also a reminder that when winter comes, the flowers just fade away. And, but in the spring, they come back and say hello. It's also a reminder that you'll see your friends again someday. It's also a reminder that when you pass, it's only a moment. And then you'll wake up and you'll be in this new world. And every single flower will bloom again, and you will see your friends again. And also, just like babies being born, it's just amazing. I mean, who could say? I mean, people say they don't believe in God, but look at everything He does. And you see His work in the flowers, in the sky. I mean, who could create such beauty? And every single petal, it's so unique. And why is it that every single animal has a purpose? Why is the sky, the sun, and the earth and the moon so aligned perfectly that we can inhabit the earth? That's not just a coincidence. I can understand why people have lost faith, because I have. I have in times, had my doubts, because there's so much sadness in this world. A lot of sadness. And even when I was living in the projects, I felt like a flower that was dumped, that nobody wanted. And I didn't feel that I was worthy for anything, because of my past. When I started going to church, I did it for my kids and not for me, because to me, I was unsavable, But God found me. And Anita came in my life, and one day I went to her and I said, I come here for my children, because God's not going to save me. He's not going to forgive me for everything I did, and I can understand that. And Anita looked at me and said, God's already forgiven you. Now, you have to forgive yourself. And that was very hard for me. That was very, very hard to forgive myself. That was back when I lived in the projects, too. So after I forgive myself, I was able to move on with my life and start getting going and going back to school and learning so I can better myself and get out of there. And yes, I deserved every chance that any other normal people had. I deserved that chance, even though I thought I didn't. I deserved a better life, even though I didn't think I did. I deserved a better life because my children did. They didn't need to grow up there. And I am so proud of my kids. I am so proud of my children, how they grew up. It's just amazing. I mean, my son, he was a cook because I guess he didn't want to eat all the macaroni and cheese that I fed him. And my other son is a cook. And I knew my older son had something really good planned for him because, I mean, to me, being, renting out your wagon for a quarter when you're a little kid just to make money so you can have some candy because your mom couldn't give you an allowance. You had to go out and make your money. I said, that's a real businessman. And my daughter's ingenious with her poetry. And my grandchildren are so awesome. And I have so much in my family to look forward to. And I was truly blessed. My granddaughter is so funny. Even though she's grown up, we're still close. And Brianna's just like me in the garden. And there's 2 other grandchildren that I don't get to see, and I have a new little buddy named Chris. And I hope to see him grow up, and become a good kid. So I have a lot to look forward to. So when I moved here, I got busy and started planting again, rebuilding again to bring life to this barren ground. I created a garden for my mom and my sister, their little bed, so I can sit out there and talk to them. And I feel closeness to them. I know it's silly to other people, but it's not silly to me. To have something close to them that reminds me. I have pictures and I have everything, but to tend and take care of someone you love that passed away, you're actually taking care of them, and watering them and feeding them and bringing them new life. And it just makes you feel good about yourself when they come back and they're all in full color. And you realize someday you're going to be with that person again. You're going to be with your mom. You're going to be with your sister and your aunts and uncles and your cousins and, your family that you lost. Your grandmas and grandpas. And it just brings me joy. Some people might call it morbid, but it's not. Knowing that someday you'll be somewhere and you'll be happy. I do get lonely a lot because my children can't visit me as much as I like them to. And they do. When I had my first birthday here, it was really hard because Bob passed away 3 days later after my birthday that year that he passed away. It was my first year here without my husband, and I still missed him so much. My son brought me a nice, beautiful, my son and my brother brought me a big picture of my husband and me. It was canvas. It was beautiful. They wanted to take me out to eat, but I refused. I don't like leaving. I didn't want to leave. I haven't learned that yet. To go out by myself. I'm getting better. I'm not getting lost as much, but even the other day when I went to visit my brother, he's in the hospital, by the way. He's in the regular hospital. Yesterday he was in ICU. He's been in there a couple of days, and he's in the regular hospital bed. So that's really good. But he had, and within 4 years, he had open heart surgery. Then he had a stent put in his leg. Then he had, last week, after 6 months, it didn't work. His toe was not healing. So he had to go in and get his toe removed and get a bypass in his leg. They sent him home later on, and 3 days later he was back in the hospital with diabetes acidosis. Was touch and go for a while, which really drove me crazy. But I said, he can't go now, and not after all he's been through. And he didn't. He's in the regular hospital bed. It's not going to be easy for him because he's still weak, but it's going to be okay. I want him to move in with me, but he doesn't. He doesn't want to be here. He doesn't want, and I said, well, sell my place and move down there, but I really don't want to move to Lawrence. I don't like the memories. I don't even like going down there. I don't like going to South Lawrence because it reminds me of everything I've been through there. All my past, my mistakes, and, all the being robbed and everything else that I went through down there. So I just don't want to move to Massachusetts. And so maybe someday I'll move if I find a reasonable place. Maybe I'll move to closer to my sons if I get that opportunity. If I win the Mass Millions, or whatever that I've been waiting for. I want to buy a piece of land and put this little house on it. And then I'll start digging another hole and throwing more plants in. If I have the energy by that time. I love watching the birds outside and all stuff like that. I have a big porch. I like to have a cover on it so I can put all my hummingbird things out there. I do miss my old home, though. I remember Bob walking in one day, and we were having Valentine's Day, and it was Valentine's Day, and I got all balloons ready, and I had him set for when he opened the door, and I can remember his smile as clear as day. I remember when my granddaughter, she was about 4 or 5, I come home. She used to live with me until she went to school, because it was her mom and dad used to drive her down every day for me to watch her. And I'm like, don't do that, because it's more dangerous to go back and forth every day on the highway with a baby than to just do it on the weekends. Her mom was like really worried that she would love me more, I guess, but kids forget when they're little kids. They forget. Well, I know she didn't forget me, but, she has plenty of opportunity to be with her mother the rest of her life. And that was my view, and I never thought that she would. I was never close to my mother when I was young. It's not until I had my own children that I became close and know what she went through. Anyway, so I remember Aubrey that's my oldest granddaughter, and I come home and she have a little table there, and she'd go back out the door. Okay. She'd go, ring the doorbell. I'm like, there's no doorbell here. Of course, there's your imagination coming up. They ring the doorbell, ding, 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 come in. I'm like, who are you, young lady? She says, I am the office manager, and I'm here to give you an interview. I'm like, oh my God. This kid, she must have been, really 7 or 8, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, I don't know. If that was when she lived with me or after, because we used to do weird things. And so she just do an interview with me, and she'd get all the paperwork out. And then, this is before Brianna was born, so, she had to be young. Then she'd go into the kitchen. I used to bring her to dance at school, too. She used to go in the kitchen, and we played school. We had a little folder with little stickers, and the teachers, like there was a racer, and we do all that. And we had this game that you have cards with. You have to do the cards, and every time she'd spell a word, she'd get a Skittle, you know. And she was reading before you know it. I mean, reading books, and I used to take her to the nursing homes, and she used to read to the elderly. And I buy her like notebooks. She never went around the house. She always had a notebook and a pen in her hand. She did not have toys in her hand. They were notebooks and pens. She was just so creative. She loved to write. She was such a schoolgirl. And at night, we used to lay in bed, and I'd say, I put all words on the side, like, you know that line on the side of your notepad? I put all words over there, and she'd have to use those words to make a story, so she'd pick it out. Well, one day, I put all P's, so it'd be a tongue twister. And she came out with a really good story about Pickles, Petunia, and Pete, whatever. They went to the circus, and there was a purple elephant, and there was just, and then they puked. Okay, there was puke in there, and they went swinging on there, and it was just purple cotton candy, and there was, everything was just so beautiful the way she wrote it. I think I still have that somewhere, maybe on the computer. And then and it was then Salt and Pepper were there too, at the circus. So she had Salt and Pepper. It was just so creative, So you see these Salt and Pepper dancing around. They had legs, and I guess. So this is my imagination seeing Salt and Pepper dancing around, and Petunia, a little flower, dancing, and Pickles and a pickle dancing. Everything with a P she had that was in the audience, that was watching the circus with the elephant, the purple elephant. It was just so creative, and I just, if I had a phone then, I would be recording her. She was amazing. And then came Brianna. Now, she was different than Aubrey. Aubrey never liked to get dirty. She was just little Miss Princess. I never seen two sisters so different. Brianna didn't care about school. She didn't care about singing. She didn't care about anything. She just wanted to do her own thing, and to me, she was more like me. I was very stubborn. I didn't pay attention. She didn't have a memory for beans. She was a kid, too. Aubrey, I'd take her to the shopping, and I'd say, remember where my car is, Or she even remember where I went. She was very smart like that. But Brianna was different kind of intelligence. She loved the flowers. And I remember one day I was digging and I was burying flowers. And I was pulling out all the dandelions and throwing them on the ground. And my back was to her. I don't know what she was doing. And I was going down the line, and I wasn't looking where I was. I was just going, digging. And then all of a sudden, I turn around. There's Brianna making holes and putting them back in. And I said, what are you doing? She goes, they're pretty. I go, they're weeds. They're pretty. So I know dandelions are very essential plant, because that's the first plant that comes out for the bees. So you can't really pull every single dandelion. So I always had a dandelion patch that I left on the hill that nobody could see, really, that I never touched, because the bees need that. So I knew that wouldn't survive if I planted them now. So I gave her a little pot with soil, and I says, here. So she put her own dandelions in there and watered them, and they came back. She would pick up the worms that I dig out, save them, and bury them back up. She loved those little, what are those roly-poly bugs. They look like round circles. They get a little armadillo. They look like baby armadillos. And they roll up in a ball when you hold them. She loved those bugs. She'd always have them. One day we went out, and I bought some butterfly larvae. on the internet, and we watched them hatch. She wanted them at her house, and when Bob moved it all the way to her house, it got, juggled too much in the car, and I didn't want to move them, but, they were hers, so I brought them back. I brought them to her house, but she ended up bringing them back because she didn't have enough flowers to do it, so we ended up having less butterflies than I had, but we watched a couple of them, like 3 or 4 out of the 20, but no, I think it was 10. Anyway, there was like a few of them. It was nice. And then I went back over her house because she wanted her own garden, and we built a garden over there. She loves to work with the garden. She's very creative. Her drawings are amazing. She can draw. I don't, by hand, sketches. I mean, they actually look like the person that she's drawing. And the first drawing that she really did was, I think her dad sent her to art school too. And they went to circus school too, so her dad was a very big part in their life too. He was a cool dad. He brought them to Disney World and everything like that. They were lucky kids. Something that he never had. And I guess he didn't want his kids to grow up like him, never having nothing. And I'm glad, that he had the opportunity to do that. I always didn't like not being able to do all the things I wanted to do with him. I mean, he didn't even want to go with me to anywhere we went. He always wanted to stay home. He didn't want to be a part of anything. I'm surprised right now that he's a big part of a lot of things, which makes me very happy. Because now he can see how important he is to people. He's he's an important person to other people's lives. His life matters. He helps a lot of people with doing what he does, makes a lot of people happy. He doesn't realize it, but he does. Anyway, so Brianna's just like that. She is really, really creative, and that's where her creativity is. Austin, I don't know. I never really got close to him. That's their brother. I do care about him, but we never really clicked. JJ, my other grandson, we did click, and we had really good times together. We go to the park and have fun, and Austin really liked JJ. They got along good. They played in the backyard a lot until JJ was 5 and 6. I mean, maybe 7, but that's the latest because I didn't see him after that. I seen him on Facebook, but his mom moved away because Johnny never married her. But I'm glad that he married Jackie because she's the right person for him because they fit perfectly together. Their personalities click. I think that Jenny was a good kid, but she was too demanding to me. She expected too much of people. It seemed like she wouldn't be happy ever. It would be hard to make her happy because she was so, she was given so much. But I think Jackie was she's a down-to-earth girl, and she was a hard worker too. She wasn't afraid to break a nail. She was strong even though she was little. And she could tell someone off. I mean, I really liked her. So I think they made a good match. And Chris had a daughter named Faith, and that didn't work out. And I was sad because I wasn't able to see her. Down here in New Hampshire, grandparents have no rights. And see the grandchildren, which is sad because I did everything to see her again. And by the time I caught her where her mother was, and I went to court, and they said, the judge said I had no right at all. And I had to pay for every single letter that was sent to them. So it was just sad. That's a lot about my life, and I'm not even talking about my yard. But yep, there goes. So I was supposed to talk mostly about my yard, but I talk about anything that pops in my mind. That's like me. I'm very spontaneous with my voice. I'll switch topics and I'll confuse people, and they don't know if I'm talking about my house or my car or the sky. I could be very confusing. I mean, I tried to write a book one day, but it was just so back and forth. I didn't even know where I ended or started. It was pretty scary. But I did really want to write a book, but I switched around so much. The reader when I read parts of it, it was very confusing. And I don't think I would have had the patience to stay on one topic at a time. It seems like I get bored. I don't want to talk about that anymore. Then I'll switch back to it. Or something will remind me what I say in the past, and I'll go back there. It's pretty weird. So I'm going to talk about Bonnie now, because I talked about Brianna, and I talked about Aubrey, and I talked about John. He, with his business, he's very creative, and he's an entrepreneur. Chris is like me a lot. He's very melancholy. He can have bad and good days. I feel bad because, I hope that he doesn't always feel sad or happy. Well, I don't always feel sad, but I know, I learned you have to work on it. You have to work on your mood if you're not happy. You have to do things to switch your mood. I mean, if you wake up and you're grouchy, you have to switch that attitude. It's your attitude in life that makes you who you are and who you perceive to be to other people. I mean, you can either be happy about it, or you could be mad about it, or you could cry about it and just accept it. The most thing is to accept it. I learned never to expect anything from anybody. If you expect things from people, you'll always be disappointed. Especially when you give something, you can't expect to get something back. Some people say to me, well, I did this and I did that for them. Why don't they do that for me? That's not their job. If they do, it's nice, but don't expect it. Give because you want to give and it makes you happy. Don't give something to somebody wanting something back, because that you'll never be happy in life, and that's not the right way to think. I learned that too. And then if you don't expect something, you don't get mad at the person, because it's not the person's fault. That's not who they are, or they weren't thinking. They're not like you. Not everybody's like you as a person. And even with your attitude, they might say something that you don't like. You have to accept them for who they are. You can't be mad at them and say. A lot of people say things to me that I don't like, but I respect their honesty. I rather somebody say something they don't like about me than say it behind my back. And and like my grandkids, when I say things to somebody, they say, oh, I'm right here, Mimir. I'm right here, I hear you. When I'm talking to my daughter about, my granddaughter, she'll say, I'm right here. I says, I know you are. What do you want me to do, say it behind your back? That's what kind of person I am, and they don't understand that. They'll be like, I'd rather have you say it behind my back. I don't get that, because then they hear it from somebody else that I said it, and they take it the wrong way. I don't know. That's my point of view. My daughter is very, very creative. She's very smart. And she's now that she's working with kids, she's starting to become real funny. Before she was always, even when she was little, she was always serious. I don't get along with serious people. They don't know how to accept me. They're too serious. And I don't know how to accept serious people. I'm the type, I know it sounds awful, but sometimes when it's really bad, I laugh, and it's inappropriate times. But I don't know how to deal with it, so I make a joke out of it. And it's very inappropriate for people to say, why is she laughing during a time like this? Because I don't know what to do. I don't want to cry. So I sit there and laugh, and because I just don't know. And that's how I deal with things sometimes. I don't know why. And I always say, it used to be, you know. Oh, my daughter has been asking me to go with her, but I have a hard time driving with her. And I feel bad. We went down to Pennsylvania and we drove all the way down there and my sister passed away. I knew we had to go quick because something told me, because Bob told me, why don't you wait for the weekend? And I said, we can't wait for the weekend to go because she'll be gone by then. And that's how I felt. So it happened that way too. So anyway, we drove all the way down there. But even I just get so nervous because I'm not in control with the car. I mean, this is me with my daughter in the car. I'll be like, don't go too fast. Don't go too slow. Watch out the car, the truck's behind you, I'm in the car. Slow down, there's a truck. And I'm like, oh, you're going to take this exit. Slow down, you're coming to the exit. It's Mom, be quiet. Don't tell me that. Mom, I'm going to get mad. Stop it. And she, and I have a habit. When I'm scared, I hold my breath. And that's what really aggravates her. And I go, and it's just a thing with me. I can't help it. And she hears me going, even when I'm working outside, sometimes I get that happens when I get excited too. I'll be watching TV and I won't breathe. It's weird. And all of a sudden I'll go, and people will think I'm aggravating with them. Or if I get excited because someone's talking, it's something, I don't know what it is. I stop breathing. My mother used to say, breathe, because I actually turned blue when I was watching TV a couple of times because I forgot to breathe. Talk about stupid, but, slap me on the side of the head and say breathe. But I looked that up, and there is something that causes that. So I'm not, some people are born like that. So I guess I'm not alone. So anyway, that really aggravates her. Bonnie. So yeah. And then there's Chris, and Chris is his own self. He likes to cook. He used to be creative. I'm not as close as I used to be with him, the way I want to be. He's a lot like me. Like I said, he likes to garden. He likes a lot of things I like. I've never been afraid to talk around him. I was never afraid to judging me. Because he never yelled at me for saying things. Every single one of my kids and my grandkids criticized me for saying things. Every single one. And it's not that I can help it, but it hurts. It hurts when I say things that I feel inside me and someone tells you, don't feel that way. I love them truly, but I cannot be myself around them because they don't understand me sometimes. So I can be rude, but I don't need you to tell me to say sorry, to tell me I'm 61 years old. I already grew up with my parents. They always told me what to do. I should be allowed to talk the way I want to talk. I should be allowed to do what I want to do. I should be allowed to listen to my own music that I want to listen to and not be told what to do. Because all your life you're told what to do. And then you become an adult, kind of an adult, and you shouldn't be told what to do. What do you got like 20 years left to live, or 30 if you're lucky? And then you're still going to be told what to do? It's just, I don't know. And it's hurtful to have someone younger than you to tell you, to make you feel like an idiot, And because I just want my children to be happy. That's the scariest thing in my life, is to disappoint them. It's scary for me. It's like, are they going to be disappointed? And that's what scares me the most. It's to disappoint somebody or let someone down, my family. It's scary to me because I don't even like saying no when they need me or when because I want to be there for them. I want them to do everything they want. I wasn't able to do everything when they were small. I never had the money, and it hurt me. It hurt me so much. To say, oh, you can't have those Reebok shoes, and you can't have this special thing, and you can't go to dancing school, not that they wanted to, or you can't go to karate because I can't afford it. When I was growing up, when I was working, all my money went into my 401k, and my rent, not my rent, the rent that yes, it was rent then. I paid the rent, and he paid the utilities. So, I paid rent and the food, and then I put the rest of it in 401k because I had the insurance in my name, and then I had the gym membership, so under my name. So I had a lot.